Hey, everybody, what's up? This is Kat from Kicking Back with Kat, and I have another episode today featuring the Hokage of professional wrestling, the protagonist of professional wrestling, Kid Bandit. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I found I'm interacting with Nyla on Twitter right at this moment. And they just made a meme out of me, and I thought it was really funny. So
I feel like I just saw that.
yeah.
I think it was you with a bunch of dudes. I think I saw it. It was actually
If
really
you
funny.
know, you know. How
It
appropriate.
was definitely a really funny tweet.
It was.
Definitely. So I know you worked, like, I guess, training with the Nightmare Factory. So what was like one thing you took from there that you kind of always use when you're going to do a show and when you're interacting under your persona?
Um. So it's really beneficial for me to go there with the character I have, because Cody at one point was Stardust, and Cody understands, like, obviously the character they've been portraying recently is a lot more grounded in reality than it was, something exaggerated.
Yeah.
But at one point they understood what it's like to be a performer in a national stage, where the character portraying is very, very outlandish, which is it's not too far out removed from the character I portray right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really makes Cody a great, like, mentor when it comes to, like, character, is because they understand both sides of the spectrum of how you want to portray yourself. Because they're either Cody Rhodes or Stardust. And I always take that on the road whenever I have to perform, and I have to, like, tweak my character a bit, if depending on the crowd, or
Yeah.
tweak my moveset even, because, like, that the same principle applies depending on the audience that you perform to. I think that's the benefit of me being this early in my career, able to perform in multiple places, not just like a singular territory, because I understand this early on that the Midwest has a specific style they like. The West Coast has a specific style they like. The South has a very specific style they like.
Yeah.
And yes, as a performer, have my. What are you doing? Sorry, here, off the couch. Come on, girl. All right, good girl. She's very great, very bright. So yeah. So wrestling in the South, I can't necessarily rely on certain things that a West Coast crowd really likes to see. So
Yeah.
I think being able to adapt, without necessarily compromising yourself in your craft as a performer, because I'm still Kid Bandit there. I'm still doing the stuff I do on the regular. It's just the way I present it. It has to be different, because I have to understand what the audience likes. That being said, like, that's one of the in-ring aspects I took from the Nightmare Factory that I still apply. But outside of that, at the end, I think this is, like, one of the best things that I took from the camp, because I can apply this to real life too. It was Coach QT and Coach Cody, and they basically shared the same sentiment. You'll get further in pro wrestling as a good person than you will as a great wrestler, because good people, they rise to the top. Your path to the top might take longer, and Serpentico actually said the same thing too, and I think they put it in better words, not necessarily better words, but they had a really good metaphor for it, as it were. Because I took a seminar from Serpentico a couple of weeks ago, and they basically said, like, what good is it if you get to the top but you backstab your way to it?
Yeah.
And the people that you backstab end up in the top with you, and they remember everything you did. So those are the stuff that I've taken from Nightmare Factory that I still apply, like, everywhere I go, not just in wrestling but in life. So yeah, School. Lessons.
No, that's actually, I think, great advice. I tell people all the time, like, be good, but at least be a decent person. I mean, everybody has days you mess up, and we might not do the best. Uh, we don't handle things at our best at the times, and that's a human thing. But try to be a decent person. Always like try to be a decent person. So that's actually great advice. I think that can be used on like all aspects of life in general. Just be a good person. And goodness will surely the universe will do its job when you're a good person.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I did also recently, I guess it popped back up. I know my Twitter is weird sometimes, but it popped back up. I guess your weight loss journey as far as deciding that you wanted to wrestle and anything. And one kudos, because it was an amazing like transformation to do in like a very short period of time, but also the discipline. I'm not always as disciplined as I need to be, so I definitely be slacking with some things that I probably need to be a lot more disciplined with. But how was that? I guess deciding to make that change, and then as far as every day deciding this is what I'm going to do, this is my end goal. How was that process for you?
So I didn't. I mean, I've struggled with weight my whole life. High school, I kind of started out chubby, but I lost weight in high school. I was a little bit of a similar build at some point in my high school years that than I was when I that before and after photo where I was 250 pounds. And when I went to the service, I was pretty in good shape. But coming out of it, when you struggle with eating disorders, you struggle. And I'm sorry, it's like to bring that up without a trigger warning, but when you struggle with the struggle and it doesn't really leave. Right after I got out of the service, alcoholism and just having that really bad like relationship with food in general, it led to massive weight gain alongside being depressed about gaining all that weight. Not at one point, I just found it really hard to like walk, and that's such an embarrassing thing. It's just like, it's walking. It's like a basic human thing. And I've been that big before too in my childhood. It's almost as if I went full circle with the weight gain, and I just decided it was like, I got out of like that bad part of my life only to find myself back in it. And because it was so hard for me to move, I was falling in love back with wrestling. I mean, I've always been a fan, lifelong fan, but I'm not afraid to admit that at one point I did kind of stop because I wasn't really into indie wrestling as much as I was with like the mainstream stuff. And sorry WWE, but like there was a pretty good couple of years where the product was just unwatchable, and thank the higher powers for NXT, because like at least earlier NXT, I'm not as up to date with the product now as I was back the black and gold and no splattered colors days, So yeah, that's how it was. To turn my weight loss into pro wrestling, and I mean to get my weight loss through pro wrestling. I think that's more of a personal thing for me, because being in shape doesn't necessarily mean like small, petite, or toned, or big and bulky. Like like time and time again, we've seen some heavier set performers perform some incredible feats of athleticism. So you cannot discredit that body type. Because all body types are beautiful, you just have to like, and it's hard to like, but I feel like we've been conditioned to understand that like heavy set is like unattractive. That's like, okay. Like, but
agreed.
Yeah, so with that being said, like, I don't think that everyone that decides to go through pro wrestling training has to look at it that they have to lose weight. If they are bigger build, there are ways to use that to your advantage if you so choose to like embrace your body image. And I know that's a hard thing, but if you're confident with your body, you're confident with your body, or you can learn to be confident with it. I was not confident with being heavy set. I wanted to lose the weight because I had an aesthetic I wanted to fill, and unfortunately, like that build isn't compatible with the look I was going for, which is, I like to think I'm getting close to it. I still have some work to do, but there you go. That was my personal journey for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with regards to body positivity. Like my weight issues is always I was on like more smaller size and not intentionally. I just really always had a hard time putting weight on.
Yes.
And it took until like recently where I'm like, you know what, this is what my body frame kind of is, and it fluctuates a little bit, but I've always been a very petite person, and so I used to feel a way about it growing up, like, oh, you got all these people who have like curves and things I don't have, and then it's like now you accept what love which happens. So definitely agree that hopefully the generations coming up can feel a lot more love for how they are, I guess, body wise, without it being so much negativity stemmed to the different, because there's so many types of body shapes and sizes, and I feel like it shouldn't always be that one that's kind of highlighted over the other, rather. And so that's
Yeah.
actually really like important. So you're just like saying such, but it's like so true though. Like it's
Yeah,
I just feel
absolutely.
coming in, the new generations can feel more confident in that.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree, and I think wrestling is doing a wonderful job highlighting that because and I love this lesson from the Nightmare Factory too, that I didn't understand it in the infancy of my career because it involves fans, and when you're starting out you don't have fans. But now that I have picked up a following, I can see what they meant. And this is what Glacier, from WCW fame, they pretty much hit it right nail on the head when they talked about how fans love to live vicariously through wrestlers. Not because sometimes a lot of the fans, like, this is their dream to perform and they can't because of life, because of finances, because of things out of their control, that they cannot pursue their dreams. So they get to do it through us. And I remember, like, just thinking about, like, how when I was a kid I really liked Jimmy Wang Yang. Um, and they weren't like, they weren't like the main eventer. They weren't like
Yeah,
Batista. They weren't like, or John Cena. But I like Jimmy Wang Yang, and I understood why, because they were Asian American. And I was in America at the time, but, like, there weren't a lot of Asian wrestlers in WWE, as it were. So now we kind of like we're kind of skewing the conversation to the topic of representation. But having someone like Jimmy Wang Yang on the roster, I was just gravitated naturally to that because there was a
yeah,
part of them I could relate to.
yeah,
And that works well with, like, wrestling and independent wrestling and in body image, because now with, like, the advent of progress, like, more progressive minds, now we don't get like the same cookie cutter type of wrestler that was like in the 80s, where everybody had to be like big and buff. And now we get
yeah,
like people like um Darby, who is very, the way they're built is very scrawny, but, like, but they still get to perform in that level. Or very recently, Calvin Tankman, who I ran into, who is a tremendous athlete, but they're bigger in size. So someone who has that same build, who, like, sees Tankman perform all the incredible feats of athleticism that they do, they
yeah,
see that, and they see themselves in that, or they see something that they wish they were. And or with me, like, I'm small, I'm 5'5". I've never really shied about, like, having a I've never had to build height, build weight. I just don't lie about
yeah,
that. I mean, not lie. Oops, not lie. I don't kayfabe that, because I like to think that, like, if there is a 5'5", 130 pound, like, something on out there who wishes that they were a wrestler, but has always been turned off by the idea that, oh, they're too small. And then they hear about, Kid Bandit, who's, I like to think I'm succeeding, like, succeeding in pro wrestling. That they look at it as like, wow, okay, like, there is a spot for me. There's a hope, because yes, we as performers are larger than life. We have to be. That's part of the case. But I like to think that the drawback of being larger than life is it might make us hard to be relatable. And and the relatability is really what gets people to, like, feel like some kind of, like, extra level of, like, attachment to you as a performer, because you could like someone's moves, you could like someone's character, you could like all that stuff, but if you can't relate to them, then it's just like a polite applause. But when you can relate to someone, you know, or understand, or you see themselves in them, then they make you feel in your heart something else, you know. And that's why I hope to do for someone someday, because Luther did that for me in DPW, and now I want to make sure that I return the favor to whomever like sees themselves in me, you know.
I mean, from what I've seen, at least especially on the Twitter, you do have quite a following where a lot of people seem to have gravitated to you. Like my youngest daughter saw like a clip of you wrestling, and the first thing she was like, "Oh, it looks like My Hero Academia," and I was like, "Right!" Like it's very first thing, just watching a clip of you wrestle. That was what she like said, and so that's definitely something like she's only 8, so like the fact that she kind of picked that up, like you're doing something that she does too, like anime too sometimes, and so
In the vein,
she caught on that it was a bit relatable.
in the vein of that, let me go ahead and do this. Butter off. Come on. So, since you brought up My Hero Academia, we're gonna continue this whole interview. All right, there we go. Yep. As soon as you said it, I literally saw in the corner of my eye. You know what? Yeah, okay, let's do it. But I am glad that, like, I have a brand I'm trying to sell, and the brand is basically anime protagonist wrestler, and My Hero Academia is a very I take a lot of inspiration for that. So I'm glad that it translates well. I'm really glad it does, because that's something a lot of wrestlers struggle, and I'm fortunate that the market, the vision I had was able to materialize the way it did, because one of the things that a lot of like veterans tell me whenever I express to them, I asked them for advice, like one of the constant thing that a lot of people say about me that's good is I already have a pretty good grasp of the character of the product of the brand. Not a lot of people get that lucky. A lot of people struggle with finding that vision for their gimmick, and a lot of people change gimmicks, and they've kind of have to figure out their niche, and people would go through that process for years, for decades even, and I was able to figure that out in like a couple of months. So I am very fortunate, so.
I also know you had a match with Emmy Young, who I'm absolutely a fan of as well. So how did that come about as far as stepping into the ring with MV? And like, I believe it was a mall, if I'm hoping I'm getting that correct. I thought that was actually pretty entertaining. So
it was not a mall.
That, like, idea come up, and like, how was that for you to experience?
So it was an anime convention. So I think that makes it even better, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
We were wrestling for Versus Pros Level Up Mania in an anime convention. We were working. It was really fun. It was very, very, very fun. We interacting with MV is really, really awesome, because they kind of paved the way for people like me as far as like the way you conduct yourself in social media, how to just be masters of it. And not only that, but their personality is just like they're such a good human being that a lot of people like I think a lot of people kind of look at MV and think, oh no, MV, like they're no, like they kind of give them the side eye because of a reputation that they've built up. But that's just because they're good at like portraying their character, like them as a person is like, whoa, like are you like, you're way too nice, That being said, they'll probably come through this door and like powerbomb me right now if I'm like totally just, oh yeah, MV's the sweetest. Yeah, they'll never hurt you. Yeah, no, MV will F you up. Trust me, if you are on their bad side. But if you're in a good side, like, yeah, and that's their good side is like, they're one of the nicest people I've run into in the indies, where in the position that they don't absolutely have to be. I mean, they're one of the bigger names in independent wrestling, as it were, right now.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not gonna lie, I've run into like some veterans in the business who they've been doing it for a while. They're kind of big names, but they kind of give you like this, like, you know, this treatment, like as if like you're beneath them, and that's hurtful.
Yeah.
Envy was not like that at all. He was very, very, you know, just great person, all around. But he will f you up if you are, you know, and he's not afraid to admit that too. He stands tall for the values that he that's important to them, and they're very brave. They will not hesitate to square up with you, and I love that. You know, I strive to be like that. I'm not there yet because I'm a little timid, as it were. So you know, I deflect serious issues about like stuff with comedy, or I just try not to get involved because I know I don't have the confidence yet, but working on it.
Listen, we all works in progress. I feel like everybody, wants to work towards something, to get a little more confident or better at. But it was definitely a really fun match. I saw that, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I didn't know it was an anime con, so that makes it a whole lot better than it was.
Yeah, the best part about all of this is, the next day I wrestled them again. So in Pomona in for Prestige. So there was 2 MV matches with Kid Bandit involved. There's that.
That's great. So I'm always curious, I guess, when I interview people, as far as what was like the aha moment where you was just like, wrestling is something I definitely want for my career. This is something that I'm going to make happen. What was that moment for you when you was like, this is it. This is definitely what I'm going to do?
It's kind of a like I guess like there's multiple answers to that, and it's weird because like it's not really multiple answers, rather like it's all these multiple factors that ended up adding up,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like an equation that leads to the solution of like, okay, this is what I want to do. And there was no big aha moment, but if I was to pick one, that would be when I saw I was in a very dark place in my life. I was suffering through depression, through alcoholism. It was bad, and I remember deciding that I wanted to lose weight, and I was reading some articles about like how to make weight loss fun, because like the first, when I was in high school, I lost weight the unhealthy way.
Yeah.
I'm still paying for the choices I made because now I've developed like a really bad eating disorder. But this time around, I wanted to find a good way to approach weight loss. And I read an article, and basically the first sentence was like, how to make weight loss fun. Do an activity that you like. And it listed maybe go dance, maybe go take a martial arts class,
Yeah.
maybe even be a pro wrestler. And as soon as I read that line, I was like, okay, I've always loved wrestling. I'm on eFeds, so why don't I do this? I'm like literally like listening to like, Deadlock and stuff. So like the Deadlock boys, like individually, like on YouTube, I'm watching them.
Yeah.
Dangos, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, let's see what pro wrestling we got. And I looked it up. First of all, it's in California. It's notoriously hard to find a pro wrestling school because like all the MMA gyms have like their, like the ads. So like you go in Google, you type a pro wrestling school, MMA gym, pro wrestling school, and I'm like, that's what we want. So I went, I hit them up, and man, like it was such a kick in the jaw because the training was brutal. It was brutal, and I was not in shape at all. I think I took like I did 3 weeks of like preparation for it,
Uh-huh.
and I was not ready. I was still in pretty bad shape. In fact, like the picture. So the picture of my transformation tweet, the before photo, was taken the day of my training, like the very first day I ever trained in a ring. And yeah, it was, I was there. I just hung on. My tag partner now, who I started training with, is he was there as well, Ishmael Vaughn. Yeah, it was definitely one of those moments where I had to like think about it. Can I do this? Or did I make a mistake? Like, like, holy crap, this is tough. And then I got in the ring for the first time. And by the way, if you're not a wrestler, getting in that ring is like notoriously like difficult. Like, especially if it's like a high ring, you're like scrambling. Like, how do you but like now that I'm like, I've done it a billion times, it's like, oh, it's easy. Hey, dude, they want me to flip into the ring? I'll flip into the ring, And as I do flip into the ring because it's fun. But back then, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do you? Oh, I'm scrambling to get in the ring. I'm like this little tired. I just like ran like 4 laps, did like 150 squats, trying to get in the ring. I'm just like, But as soon as I finally got through the ropes, like, I'm coming through the ropes like some kind of like gremlin because I'm like struggling so hard, and I'm stout, so it's like I'm bumping into everything and everyone. But then I got in that ring, and suddenly it felt like that's where I've always belonged. So the thought of quitting never really lingered. There was thoughts of like giving up to rest, but it was never a give up. This isn't for you. It was always like, yeah, this is home. This is this is my purpose. I don't know why it's my purpose. Maybe I'll figure that out later. But yeah, I knew right there then that was it, and I wasn't gonna quit.
I mean, you definitely have a knack. Like I said, your personality can be seen a lot when you're wrestling, and that's always a good thing. I mean, I gravitate to characters like that as a fan. Like Shawn Michaels is always like larger than life, and so I gravitated to him. And Jeff Hardy was like always doing something crazy, and I'm like, oh, that's so like I could do it and not do it, but you're doing it. It's so amazing. It's so cool, and so I always gravitate to characters that's just kind of larger than life, and I definitely see that like with when you're in the ring. So that's like good. Like, you just like, this is, yeah, this is for me. That's for them, because sometimes, everybody doesn't get that so early on either. Like what is it you want to do with your life? And sometimes it takes a long time, that college level. It's like, yeah, in college, which is, you're not, it's not always the case with everybody. I definitely see that, like, just you're larger than life when you're in the ring. And so that's such an amazing thing. I think that's one of the reasons why you have people that gravitate to you as a wrestler, because you're so just, it's trying to get the right word for it, just like the light that you have. And so just super like amazing that's kind of what you realize, like, this is like wrestling's for you.
I mean, there are some days where I don't see myself as Kid Bandit, because the character themselves is kind of transcended me, as it were. And I think it's because like the fan, like, I get so many fan art. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why are y'all drawing me? I'm not that cool, That's a whole life of insecurities, like kind of like conditioning my mind to be like, oh no, I'm like, you ain't it. You'll never be it. And I'm like, okay, I understand. But now that I'm kind of becoming it, I'm like, am I really doing okay? I am. I have to acknowledge that. Like, I have to give myself a pat in the back every once in a while and remind myself to stay humble. But like, sometimes I don't feel like Kid Bandit because I look at like the stuff I say on Twitter, I watch the stuff I do, whereas I was depressed and obese and just in terrible shape, mentally and physically, for so long that and Kid Bandit's only been around for 8 months. I've had like 2 decades worth of like just being undesirable, And this is kind of like a promo now. I have 2 decades of being undesirable. That's hard to believe. Undeniable. Oh, Cody Rhodes.
I'm so like putting that clip, just like mini Bandit promo right here.
I realized what I was about to say, and I'm like, hold up, this is a promo. What? Oh, I wish I could cut promos like this with a live microphone, but no, I'm like, well, how am I such a good, like, where's this like eloquence coming from? What is going on?
I know you've also was in AEW. You've been actually in quite a few promotions I've seen in the last 6 months, which is like amazing. How was the AEW experience?
How is it like to wrestle in all these other promotions, basically, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I guess like because you did AEW as well, and like there's a smaller promotion, but I wouldn't really call them an independent promotion. So how was that experience versus the other independent promotions you've done so far in the last 8 months?
Compared to AEW, yes?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I like to think it's pretty common knowledge that Cody Rhodes is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
So, and at the time he was the vice president of AEW, and being told that I'm wrestling the boss at my first day in this big company, and they happen to be your favorite wrestler growing up. And this is like your big moment, and you're only 3 months into your career. I think I'm entitled to like financial compensation for the mental like pressure that was put into me, and for this like, and it's pretty wild to be in that position too, because I'm just like we came to the venue. It's Universal Studios. I'm hanging out with JDX and Ish. We're just chilling. I kind of had an idea what was happening that day, but I wasn't sure. And so like throughout the day, people started trickling in, and then Cody walks by, and I'm like, "Hey, Coach, how's it going?" He's like, "Kid, perfect. I believe I'm working you with Fuego today," and I'm like. Oh, and the best part was, I wasn't in gear because like I thought I was in the second taping. I was in the first taping, but I believe we were either the semi-main event of the first taping or the main event. Actually, I wasn't quite sure. So I was in the audience just watching the show because like I was like, oh yeah, could I sit with the audience? And because they were asking for some talent to like how it was back in the pandemic era, they would do that. And I'm like, I get pulled, like, a producer comes up to me and says, "You're Kid Bandit, right?" I'm like, "Yes, we need you backstage." I'm like, "Okay." I get there, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're up in, like, 2 matches." And I'm not dressed up. I'm like, wow. So I got this incredibly insurmountable amount of pressure on me. I'm wrestling my favorite wrestler. They're the boss. They're the vice president of the company. They're also my coach. They're my trainer. So much pressure right now, right? And I'm out here, and I need to get in my underwear. I'm just thinking to myself, wow, like this cannot go any more wrong. And I'm glad that it didn't go wrong because I'm like, oh, and it was also like, wow, like like I wonder how like people will react to me. And literally within like I want to say like it was the first dark episode from that taping that aired. So I remember as soon as I posted it, overnight sensation. I was like, I was in memes. There was a Reddit thread about me. There was a bunch of there's a freaking awesome network thread about me. It was like, whoa, like I'm really glad this is happening.
Yeah.
But like, whoa, like like and like I don't hide the fact of my inexperience at 8 months because it's also my crutch. I like to use it as like, hey, if I ever make mistakes because I'm so young in this in my career right now. That's my I mean, I don't like using it. It's just there just in case, But but yeah, I mean, I'm not perfect. I'll make mistakes here and there, but I try to make sure everything works out. But on the other side of that, it's like, yeah, like I don't think any independent wrestler that hasn't been signed yet has like gotten to this point this fast. And the fact that there is no rule book for success in professional wrestling. There are paths that others have taken that you could follow to get to the top. Like, you could emulate what they did, but ultimately, even if you follow everything they did to the T, it doesn't necessarily guarantee. Since you don't know what will get you catapulted to the top. Like, Orange Cassidy, who used to be Fire Ant. Like, I love Fire Ant, but like, the Fire Ant versus Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy is just next level.
Yeah.
I don't know if they understood that they're switching gears to like this magnificent character will be what like catapults them to stardom. Like, who would have predicted that? Like, I don't think they would have predicted. We were able to predict that.
Yeah.
So there are paths to success that you can emulate, but it doesn't guarantee that. So it's already hard to like figure out how to get over or what to do. Like, in my case, it's a little bit of like, what is going on? Like, who do I talk to? Because like, there's nobody that's ever been in this position this fast. So and I'm lucky enough that I'm mature enough to acknowledge the situation I'm in. It's still pretty intimidating though. It's like, okay, like, what do I like? How do I navigate this? Because nobody else has navigated this, So I'm, in a weird way, I am setting like the standard, like, for someone in the future to like, if somebody else were to be in my position, like maybe I'll be like kind of like their role model. What to do. And like, what happens when you're a freaking viral sensation over like in 8 months, basically. Like, how do you navigate that, and I get to be that for someone, but by myself right now, I don't have anybody I can, there's people who I could talk to who has very good advice, but for the specific situation I'm in, I'm by myself,
Yeah, I mean, that I feel like that is a lot of pressure going against your trainer, but then on his show, I feel like I would have been very stressed out about that as well. Like, you was explaining it, and I felt stressed for you, so I was just like, oh, I would be so anxious about that whole scenario, just trying to get my head around, like, wait, right now? Really? And I would have so questioned everything.
The best part about all of this was the very first person I walked into was Kenny Omega. And we were just walking by. Kenny, nice to meet you. Literally my tag team partner, like, and I were like talking, and I turn around. Oh, hi. Like, the very first show I did for AEW, the main event was Bryan Danielson, and I'm just like, ooh, oh, wild.
Who's also another fantastic wrestler. Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned a lot about, like, I guess going through like a tough time, and that's something I always tell people as well. I have also struggled with depression, anxiety. I get anxious very quickly about things, and so I always feel the one thing as people we should do is have if we need a mental break, take the break. If we need to step back from something, step back from something. So what are some things you do as a form of like self-care to kind of just feed back into yourself after you've like given to everybody else and you just need some time to kind of recharge? What are things you do to kind of recenter yourself?
CM Punk is gonna hate me. I get high. I get really high. Yeah. I'm sorry, CM Punk. I'm sure they're very tolerant about people who partake. But I mean that's the funny answer to it. I think I'm not the best person to ask for that, because I have self-destructive tendencies. I don't have a good track record of handling how to navigate mental stress, how not to suffer from burnout. And like, being self-aware is great and all, but like being very proactive about like not being like that is entirely different story. That being said, I think one of my go-tos are us human beings are creatures of comfort. familiarity breeds safety, as it were. Like why are people afraid of the dark? Because you don't know what's people aren't afraid of the dark; they're afraid of the unknown. So with familiarity comes, you know what to expect. You feel safe. So I generally play video games. I replay games that I've already played because I'm like, okay, I know how to navigate that. That's what I do. I read novels that I already know the endings to because you don't know what to expect. And the best part about doing all these things is like a lot of us associate these familiar hobbies of ours with better parts of our lives. I would read some novels that I read as a child where life was a lot less stressful, and for a brief moment I could pretend I was there, no responsibilities. I play video games I played when I was a teenager, and I'm just like, okay, like I remember when I was like at this point in my life where like the biggest stresses I had to worry about was prom or my parents finding out I'm bisexual. So that was but yeah, it's still a tough like problem, but it's not as bad like as some of the problems I'm trying to escape. So that's how I approach it.
Okay. I mean, listen, I love reading as well. And I heard this, I want to say during that quarantine period when people were like rewatching things. I was like, yeah, at one point there was a show I watched 6 times. The whole series, and I was like, there was no need to watch it because I knew it was gonna happen, but it was a comfort thing, and so I literally just watched it 6 times in a year, and I was like, oh my god, like they didn't even realize that I was doing it until I sat back. It was like, oh, this is definitely because I know what's gonna happen, so I'm not anxious about the ending. I know where I'm going. I'm not gonna feel stressed out about this. I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? It's just like, oh, I know, I'm here already. I already dealt with whatever I felt watching it or reading it, so definitely like, understood that because I did that quarantine was a little hard for me as far as with my depression. It was hard because it was like everything I was doing kind of got taken away at that moment, and so it was like, well, now I'm home and I have no outlet. It's like you kind of was forced to kind of look at yourself a little bit, and so it was very hard. And so that's something I just related to so hard because I was like, oh my god, that's like I was so like rewatch movies and stuff that I already know what's gonna happen. I'm just like it's now like a thing, like just automatic, like just letting it play in the background or something. So
I feel you on that. Like why is it so fun to like? Why is it so fun to like show your significant other something that you've seen already? It's because like you don't have to suffer through the anxiety-inducing like, oh, what's gonna happen? They get to experience that for the first time. It's an oddly intimate moment where you see their reaction for something you already know, and you can kind of guide them along afterwards. Like, okay, it's okay, or it's like, there you go. Like, it really dictates like it's very dependent on the nature of your relationship. But yeah, it's such a wonderful wonderful experience. It's that I think that, and that's why I like doing it.
That's I feel like that's how I would like when I was first watching. Like I watched all of Naruto, and there were certain moments that had me in tears, absolute tears. And so my significant other was kind of doing that, where it was like, see, I could have like watch it to kind of it's okay. And I'm like I was devastated for like days. I was just like, first of all, you gotta give me a moment to grieve. Let me process what I'm feeling right now because I was like really devastated. So now it's when people tell me they're watching Naruto, I was like, yes, I am not on the other side of this because I knew what this was in like 2019 when I just found out about Naruto and kind of had to watch it behind everybody else who already knew what Naruto was. And so it was a relief a little bit, like, oh, I don't have to go through the process of crying because I cried.
But the downside of that is like, let's say you're trying to like learn more about your favorite character and you go on Google and you type in their name and suddenly like you're typing in like Jiraiya, and then the first like auto complete thing was death, and I'm like, ah.
That's legit how I found out about his death. Was I was watching something and I was like, wait a minute, he dies, and I'm like, why would you not tell? Like, why would you put this out here for me? Like, I was so upset. I was like, so even when I finally got to his death, I was still upset about it, but I was upset because that was literally the first thing that popped up. I was like, what did he like? Come on! So I try now when I'm watching something to kind of avoid social media because it's like you see the one thing you don't want to see yet, and I'm like, no, don't spoil it for me. You're hurt. Like I can't be hurt. Let me prepare myself to be hurt. So you know.
I draw, like, well, one of my hobbies is I do digital art, and I wanted to draw Sasha from Attack on Titan, and because I'm caught up now, but I wasn't at one point. And literally, as I was typing their Google to Google like reference photos, it just said Sasha death. I'm like, oh.
Oh yeah, that sure stresses me out too. I'm like, I think we got like 5 episodes, and I'm just like, whew. Though I do know the ending, but the ending was spoiled for me, and I was like, you guys had one job to not tell me nothing, let me deal with the emotions when it comes, and so, but Titan is one of my favorite enemies as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
it's super awesome. So now I feel like I have to ask, if you can have any anime protagonist to be your tag team partner to take on anybody you felt you could take on, who would be your partner and who would be your opponent?
Like Yagami.
Okay.
As my tag team partner. Opponents, Goku. And Goku and Naruto. Because
nice.
Because it's so easy, right? Here's how the match is gonna happen. I was starting the ring. I don't even need any power-ups. I could literally be like, I'm standing in the ring against like Goku and Naruto, and I got Light Yagami in the corner with their Death Note, right? Keep in mind, Light doesn't know. He doesn't have the Shinigami eye, so he can't see Naruto and Goku's names. But pro wrestling match, what's the first thing to happen in the pro wrestling match? On the way to the ring, from the Hidden Leaf Village, Naruto Uzumaki. Light is out there just chilling like that. All right, who's next? Goku from what? From Planet Vegeta? Got it. Yeah, how do you spell Goku? All right.
I can see like Naruto trying to talk his way out of this. Like, let's have a bowl of ramen.
Honestly, like, Light could even, like, because, like, the gimmick of the Death Note is if you write details of the death within the next 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Ha! I know that off the top of my head. Yep. If you write the details of someone's death within the next 2 minutes and 40 seconds, you can dictate how they die. And, like, Light could literally put, has an awesome wrestling match with Kid Bandit. Oh, wait, no, he wrote my name in the thing. Oh, wait, no, that's not my real name. Boom. Wonderful. Wonderful. So easy. Actually, you know what? In Kakarot's case, it might be a little bit hard, so I'm going to change it with Vegeta. Because Goku isn't his birth name. So I'm changing Goku to Vegeta, right? And it works out best. It works out best because guess what? Even if it wasn't a wrestling match and there was no ring announcers, what's the first thing Vegeta and Naruto do in a fight? I'm Naruto Uzumaki and I'm gonna be Hokage. Boom. Like, got that light? Got it. Oh, okay, Vegeta. I am Prince Vegeta of Planet Vegeta. And I'm okay, what was that? Can you say that? Okay, Light, you got that? Boom. Boom. Easy. All right, hey, Naruto, Vegeta, can you give me like 60 seconds? Got it. Just wait there.
Yeah. We'll do an instant death match.
Yeah.
Who's an opponent that you want to wrestle that you haven't had a chance to step into the ring yet? And you're pretty like new at it, so there's probably like a bunch of people. But who's like that person? Like, oh my god, I can't wait to step into the ring with them.
It's more of a reality now than it is a fantasy. So I want to put it out there. But Johnny Gargano, for sure. Just because they're into independence once more. I hope. Because it might be a work. They might be fooling us, but I hope they were,
Yeah, Johnny's pretty solid. I got to see him, I believe, at Evolve. I want to say 2019. It was on the show. There's a couple of wrestlers from WWE that wound up going to NXT, and it was pretty cool. And I was like, I liked that the crowd was really, really behind them. You can always tell when the crowd loves a wrestler. So he's definitely. I mean, I did see that he was looking for bookings. So hopefully, that means he'll be in some independent spots soon because I did see his tweet, but wrestlers do troll sometimes, and so you never know. Sometimes they'll like say something and then like, oops, just playing, guys. So
well, I think in Gargano's case, they wouldn't openly advertise they're looking for bookings if they weren't actually. So
yeah,
we'll see.
So we're gonna do like a really quick speed round of questions. I'm gonna ask you something, and then you tell me first thing that pops in your head.
Okay.
Last song you had on repeat?
It would be "Lie to Me" by Less Than Jake.
Nice. Last show you binged watched?
Oh. Punisher. There you go.
Oh, the Netflix? Amazing.
Yes, the Netflix. Yes. I was going through all of them before they were being shipped off to Disney Plus.
Yeah. That's a whole nother, rant for another day. About that. Do you consider yourself a morning person or a night owl?
Night. Definitely night.
Okay. A snack that you always have to have, no matter when it is, where it is the one snack you always have.
It would be funny if I have it on. It wasn't that far out of reach. So it was in my bed, actually. There you go. Start back.
That's awesome. If you got stuck on an island and only could have 3 things with you, what 3 things would you have and why?
Stuck in an island, 3 things. Does it have to be real or can it be fictional?
It can be anything.
A spaceship. Like the Millennium Falcon, teleporter, and a phone with unlimited Wi-Fi, so I can tweet everything.
See, I feel like if you're teleporting, you can always bring stuff back too. So you know what? That's solid. Pretty solid.
I'm not even stuck in a way. It's more of it's like my fortress of solitude, as it were. But real items, I would get a knife or a machete or something to cut things with, 550 cord, and a portable water filtration system just to survive.
Nice. Yes. I like both versions of this because it's like either you have an amazing time fictionally or you're going to be prepared. I love that. This is perfect answers. If you could talk to anybody, dead or alive, who would that person be?
Cody
Just have
Rhodes.
like a conversation and just chat up with that person.
In wrestling, Cody, because there's a lot of matches I would want them to critique. Outside of wrestling, first person I could think of. So everybody, I want to say Martin Luther King, but I think that's like such a basic answer for a lot of people, like someone good. So I wanna have a conversation with Hitler, but like not a conversation, more of just like a roundhouse kick. So yeah, hit Bandit, the Protagonist of Pro Wrestling, just kick Hitler in the head multiple times. Yeah. I'm not even ashamed to admit that. Like they're all shoot kicks too, better. They're not like gimmick like thigh slap kicks. We're going ham, buddy.
I mean, listen, it's what he would deserve now. Just...
Yeah.
If you can transport yourself into any anime world, what anime would you drop into?
Oh. Well, I am definitely not going to Akame ga Kill. I'm not even going to Naruto. It's like they're always in constant like conflict. Like what the hell? So
yeah.
Let me go find a nice place. Oh, you know what? Post Death Note. The post Death Note world. Post Kira Death Note world, because that seemed like a nice like place to live. Crime rate drop. People are afraid. And since I'm the only if I'm getting transported to that world with the knowledge of like everything I know about the story of Death Note, then I could use that to my advantage. Be like, yo, are you Mr. Yagami? Yeah, I know your son is Kira, and if you don't PayPal me like $1 billion, I'm exposing it to the world. I could prove it, bro. I could prove it, man. Yeah, I could expose like Nier's identity, yo. Like, yeah, just and the reason why I'm talking like this is just because I want to make it seem like I'm not Kid Bandit, yo. I'm a totally different person. You can't figure out my identity, yo. Like, stop tracing my phone, yo. Hey, why is the FBI in my house, yo? What the? Yeah, so that'll be the approach.
I mean, that's true. You would have the knowledge, so I feel like it should be a little easier to kind of manipulate that situation.
Well, yeah, and I think the best part about like the Death Note universe was like the sequel to Death Note. Like Homeboy got the Death Note and he said, "I'm not using it, but I will try to make a profit out of it." Yo.
What is something you want to see for yourself in like 5 years from now?
Lots of money. Lots of money. No, but seriously, lots of money. Just because I want to give my family a life of comfort. I want to give myself a life of comfort. I want to give my dog a life of comfort. I don't even know why they keep like scratching their back, and then I see it now. They have a rash, so I gotta take her to the vet. So yeah, like yeah, I want It's easy for people to be better people when they're taken care of financially. Like financial stability really paves the way for people to be a lot more selfless. Because like if your personality isn't that you're not a jerk, then it's easy for you to be very giving and generous because you don't want to live in excess, right? And I think if I was financially stable, I'm like, yeah, dude, you want $1,000? Sure, why not? Like, I have like too much money in my hands anyway, so that being said, if you're watching this interview and by then I'm like a billionaire, don't go up and be like, yo, can I have $1 million, bro? Like, can I have $1 million, bro? Like, yo, I don't know you, bro, but like, you say you were gonna give out free money when you're rich and famous. I'm like, yo, no, dude. Like, build a rapport, you know.
Right? At least try to be friendly first.
Yeah, exactly. Buy me dinner first. We'll see.
So, last question, or rather, just kind of giving you the floor. What do you have coming up recently that you would like to let all the viewers know?
I should know this off the top of my head, but I have a lot of shows coming up. I have Chicago. By the time of this recording, I don't know when it's going up, but I believe I would have done Chicago for NLS. I would have done Pride Style, I believe, next week, and DPW Deadlock on the 12th. So lots of good shows, lots of big shows. I am in Effie's Big Gay Brunch coming up on Mania weekend. Big opportunity for me to like show the world who I am, and we live in a society. So, so yeah, that's those are the ones that I got coming up. I'm start a YouTube show.
Nice.
Yeah, basically, a lot of it's just gonna be me just being me with a couple of people. There's a lot of skits involved. Think Filthy Frank, but less Filthy Frank, but more on the ending when Joji started making cameos, as it were.
That's pretty awesome. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. This has been a super, super fun interview. Like, I laughed a lot.
I'm glad.
So thank you so much for coming on. I will have all of the social media links in the description, so please go subscribe when the YouTube channel is ready. Go follow, share, hashtag sign Kid Bandit, summon Kid Bandit, all of that good stuff. Make sure you make it happen, guys. And thank you so, so, so much for coming on. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys.